When you think of prom, what usually comes to mind is freedom, the chance to dress how you want, express yourself, stand out. In the Soviet Union, it was very different. Most girls looked almost identical. Modest dresses, strict lengths, covered shoulders. There were unwritten, but very real, rules. And breaking them could mean not being allowed to attend prom at all. And that's an important point, because in the USSR, a graduation dress wasn't just a matter of taste. It reflected the system and its idea of what a young woman should look like as she stepped into adulthood. And if it seems like everything stayed the same, that's not quite true. Prom fashion in the Soviet Union did change over time, from the strict, almost militaristic silhouettes of the 1940s to softer, more feminine shapes in the 1960s, and then to cautious attempts at self-expression in the 1980s. You can literally read the country's history through these dresses. Shifts in culture, ideology, in how the state viewed women, and how women began to see themselves. So let's move through the decades and see how prom in the Soviet Union evolved. June 21st, 1941, prom night. Just one day before the war, an ordinary school, an ordinary class, just like thousands across the country. In these photographs, you see graduates, girls in simple dresses, high collars, long sleeves, modest silhouettes, no attempt to stand out, just neatness and restraint. But there's something that makes these images different. This was the last prom before the war. Within 24 hours, everything would change. Many of these young people would go to the front. Some would never return. Now the post-war 1950s. The country is rebuilding, and you can see it even in the clothes. Dresses become a little lighter. More light fabrics appear. Small details, collars, bows, simple decorations. But overall, everything is still restrained. No luxury, just modesty and neatness. Prom begins to feel like a celebration, but a very quiet one. It's no longer the strict severity of the 1940s, but it's still far from real freedom of expression. In the 1960s, graduates start thinking more about fashion. Dresses become more varied, more expressive. Many were still handmade, partly out of necessity, but also as a way to add individuality. Girls experimented carefully, staying within accepted norms, but still trying to make something their own. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, things shift more noticeably. Dresses become shorter, styles more diverse, young people more relaxed. You could see girls in imported shoes and custom-made dresses, or in the classic Soviet school uniform with a white apron. Some even altered their uniforms to make skirts shorter. During school years, that could get you into serious trouble. But on prom night, people often looked the other way. At the same time, the older generation watched with quiet disapproval, criticizing what they saw as changing morals. By the 1980s, the change becomes even more obvious. There's more confidence, more freedom, and it shows immediately. Dresses are shorter, silhouettes bolder. There's a sense of personal style, not just doing it right. And yet, an interesting detail remains. Many girls still wear the school uniform with a white apron, not out of obligation anymore, but as a symbol. Prom stops being just a formal event. It becomes something personal, a shift in tone, a hint of the changes that were about to reshape everything. Then came the collapse of the Soviet Union, and with it, shortages of almost everything. The 1990s were uncertain. Graduates didn't know what to expect from the future, but still stepped into it with a kind of cautious optimism. Not every family could afford a new dress or suit. Instead, girls often wore simpler outfits, skirts paired with blouses, sweaters, or basic suits, and boys sometimes showed up in tracksuits. very much in line with the style of the time. Moving into the 2000s and today, prom fashion becomes incredibly diverse. You'll often see photos online of bold, flashy outfits, but they don't represent everyone. There have always been those who choose shock value over subtlety, and just as many who prefer elegant, understated looks. But those quieter choices rarely go viral. What we tend to see instead are the outfits that spark controversy, the ones that make people talk. And this is where the contrast becomes clear. From nearly identical, strictly regulated dresses to complete freedom of choice. From a system where appearance was part of the rules to a time where it's a form of self-expression. And yet, one detail has survived through it all. That black dress with a white apron still appears at proms today, not as a requirement anymore, but as a reference to a time when choice was limited and to the path that's been traveled since. And maybe that's why this story isn't really just about clothing. It's about how society changes and how those changes show up in even the simplest things.